Alright, so we're finally on Thailand. And what an extremely different country it is compared to our home, Mexico. From the architecture to the customs and beliefs of people to the food, everything was so mysterious and strange to us at first sight. And when we landed in Bangkok, we never thought how modern the city was and how advanced everything looked. It was so impressive to us. And just like any other modern city, it had a complex system of transportation. For example, Bangkok had two kinds of metro system, the BTS, which ran outdoors, and the MRT, which was subterranean. Both of them were quite clean and efficient. But there were also other kinds of transportation, like for example, you could go into a small truck and, if you know the routes, you could travel along the city very easily and very cheap. These were called songteos. And also you could take, the typical public buses, like the ones we see here. These also go for very, very cheap. They usually cost between 8 to 25 baht, depending on the route you take. And I think it's the best way to move around the city. But the most impressive thing is that they also have a boat system where you move between the Chao Phraya river, and these also cost around 15 baht. And all of these prices that I mentioned are like seriously I'm speaking of cents here, cents of a dollar, like 20 cents to 50 cents of a dollar basically. So, it's really, really cheap to move around wherever you want to in this city. And so we jumped right into one of these boats heading towards Wat Arun, which is one of the most famous Buddhist temples here in Bangkok. And we were really, really excited because, we have heard many things about it. And so the day had finally come for us to see it with our very own eyes. When we arrived, walking throughout the courtyards of the temple of Wat Arun was such an amazing experience because we were presencing the sheer amount of details that were, displayed throughout its walls and even on the stairs and on the roofs. Everything was so intricate and beautiful, and the size of the temple was just massive. And it gave testament to its name because Wat Arun means basically something along the lines of the temple of the rising sun. And so it's a very famous thing to do here, to go and observe the temple right when it is dawn or when dusk arrives and the sun is starting to fall down. And at those times you can see the light hitting the temple from a certain side, and they say it's a very, very beautiful sight. And we didn't have exactly the time to see it, but it was still very beautiful when we went there. And it just shows how marked the Theravada Buddhist tradition and the Hindu influence is, in the architecture of these kinds of temples. The traditions that people follow here in Thailand, I think they are very, very marked, and you can see how people really practice all of these traditions thoroughly. You can see people doing many of the things that people were doing a long time ago, even nowadays. So what exactly makes Thailand such a special country? Well, it's a mix of many things. For example, if you're traveling here, you will find very, very cheap prices on food, very, very cheap prices on technology, on clothing, on accommodation. Everything seems to be very, very welcoming for, any kind of wallet, any kind of traveler. And not only the prices, people are very, very kind. They smile at you all the time. Thailand is normally called the land of smiles. for a good reason, because people are they really try their best to make you feel comfortable visiting their country. And the fact that Thai people, even though they have their own idiosyncrasies, they are still very open-minded, makes this country a place where you can really just, be yourself in any way, and nobody will really judge you, in a way that, will be detrimental to your stay here. And so the more you walk the streets of this country, the more you start to see that the identity of Thai people is very, very reinforced by the love that they have for their country and their long lasting traditions. And as I mentioned earlier, the practice of Theravada Buddhism that they have here really gives them an extra strength in their identity as a country. And we really enjoyed seeing how people followed all of these kinds of, traditions, like it's really part of their life, like it's really integrated in their lives. Here we visited one of Bangkok's most famous streets called Yaowarat. And Yaowarat is basically like a kind of Chinatown in Bangkok, but it's also very famous for the food that is there. It's like a food street, and if you search any of the sidewalks, you will find all kinds of Thai food and Chinese food, and a fusion between the two. And you'll just find everything ranging from sweets to spicy to very salty to seafood, all kinds of dishes. And not only that, but in this street you can even find the famous one Michelin star restaurant. And Michelin stars are only given to the most special restaurants with the best food and service that can be provided. So this is just a small example of how good the food actually was here. So with what kind of budget did we visit this country? Well, you might think we are very crazy, but we prepared a budget of only $350 per month. And you know what? It was perfectly doable. Maybe you have to sacrifice some things, if you have more money you can get more things. But sometimes we didn't pay for accommodation, and just by paying for the food we were able to stay in this great country for 2.5 months. So this was just the beginning of our journey, and we were seriously not prepared for what was coming next, because the next few days were going to be even more amazing.